This is exactly how you lose your boat without ever hitting a reef. These are the 5 standard upgrades that will make your boat uninsurable by 2027. Right now, thousands of sailors are spending their life savings on modern gear, only to find out they have just signed a death warrant for their insurance policy. This is not about cheap repairs. This is about professional-grade lithium banks, high-tech rigging, and solar arrays that are triggering automatic rejections from every major underwriter in the world. There is a secret blacklist circulating in the insurance industry, and if your boat has even one of these 5 items, you could be barred from every marina on the coast by next season. Why is the gear that makes your boat better secretly making it worthless in the eyes of the law? Are you upgrading your way to freedom, or are you just building a boat that no one is allowed to cover? In 2015, lithium battery banks and synthetic rigging were rare sights at the average marina. Upgrades like these belong to high-budget ocean racers or the handful of early adopters willing to risk their insurance for a taste of the future. By 2018, the tide began to turn. Lithium prices dropped, solar panels shrank in size but grew in wattage, and every major sailing forum buzzed with step-by-step guides for do-it-yourself installations. The real spike hit between 2020 and 2024. Boat shows filled with vendors hawking lithium drop-in kits, modular solar arches, and Dyneema standing rigging. Yards from Annapolis to Auckland reported waiting lists for full electrical conversions. One refit manager recalls that they went from 1 lithium job a month to 3 a week by late 2023. Surveyors, once content to tick off lead-acid batteries and wire rope, found themselves staring at bespoke electrical diagrams and custom-fabricated chain plates. A veteran surveyor notes that every third boat had something they'd never seen before. If there was not a factory manual, it was a question mark. By the start of 2026, the ratio had flipped. On some docks, more boats had lithium or synthetic rigging than not. Insurers, once quietly tolerant, began circulating internal lists of non-standard upgrades. The stage was set for a reckoning. Owners who invested in the latest gear now faced a new reality, where the very upgrades that promised freedom and reliability made their boats financial dead ends. The purge was no longer rumor, it was a numbers game, and the numbers were running out. A blacked-out memo, stamped "Denied" in heavy red, circulates through the underwriting offices in the third quarter of 2026. The language is surgical. Non-standard electrical system. Refer to Clause 12.4.1. Coverage declined. No drama, no explanation. The boat's owner receives a curt email, policy non-renewed, effective immediately. The memo itself is never meant for the client, but brokers whisper about the list, a spreadsheet where hull numbers and upgrade codes are quietly appended. In practice, this is the insurance blacklist, a living document updated with every surveyor's report that flags lithium banks, synthetic rigging, or custom solar arches. The consequences are immediate and brutal. Lenders, faced with a boat stripped of coverage, call in loans or hike interest rates. Marinas, now liable for uninsured hulls, issue eviction notices. On the resale market, brokers quote a $0 value. Uninsurable is the new unsellable. One owner, after a $40,000 refit, watches his listing rot for months. The only offers come from scrap dealers. The mechanics of the purge are faceless but efficient. Surveyors upload findings to a central portal and underwriters cross-check against their internal lists. A boat flagged for a lithium install without ABYC certification is instantly tagged. There is no appeal, no negotiation. The insurance company does not care if it works. They only care if it is standard. For owners, the golden handcuffs tighten, the boat is modern, upgraded, and worthless. What was meant to be freedom now sits locked to the dock, financially dead. Next comes the technical audit, the moment every owner dreads, when the details of their upgrades become the grounds for exclusion. A lithium battery bank with a professional badge and a glossy battery management system module looks like progress on paper. But the moment a surveyor lifts the engine hatch, the real calculation begins, one that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with risk. The alternator, built for the slow, steady demands of lead-acid batteries, now faces a lithium bank that charges faster, accepts more current, and draws until the battery management system slams the gate shut. The alternator doesn't know when to stop. It spins up, delivers current at cruising RPM, and expects a predictable load. But the battery management system, watching cell voltages and temperatures, can cut off the battery in milliseconds. At that instant, the alternator has nowhere to send its energy. Voltage spikes. Heat builds at the diodes and wiring. The battery management system has done its job, but the alternator is left stranded, sometimes frying itself, sometimes sending a surge through the rest of the boat's electrical system. This is the charge profile mismatch. Most factory alternators are regulated for slow, absorbent loads. Lithium banks demand a custom charge map, one that ramps up fast, then tapers at exactly the right voltage, often below 14.4 volts. Without a DC to DC charger or a programmable regulator, the alternator keeps pushing. The battery management system, seeing an overvoltage or overcurrent condition, disconnects. The alternator, now unloaded, spikes to its maximum output. At the wrong RPM, this crossover can happen in seconds, not hours. The result is a cycle of surges and cutouts, each one invisible until a surveyor checks the wiring for discoloration, melted insulation, or signs of thermal stress near the fuse block. Insurers see this as an invisible fire risk. The technical audit demands proof, a charge map showing alternator output versus battery management system cutout points. If the documentation is missing or the install lacks DC to DC isolation, the system is flagged. The verdict is swift. The system is labeled non-standard electrical system and the coverage is gone. The owner is left holding a boat that charges faster than the policy can keep up, locked in the golden handcuffs of modern upgrades with nowhere to go. Thermal imaging tells a story that paperwork can't hide. A fuse block, clean to the naked eye, glows white-hot under a scan, 168 degrees Fahrenheit at the main lug, 143 degrees Fahrenheit at the alternator lead. These numbers do not come from a lab. They are pulled straight from surveyor reports submitted since 2019. After 2022, brokers started flagging thermal forensics as the silent killer of insurability. A single hotspot above 120 degrees, paired with a lithium battery installation and no DC to DC isolation, is the red flag that ends the conversation. A broker's email dated April 2026 strips away any ambiguity. Thermal anomaly at fuse block, recommend immediate declination per underwriting memo 4.7.2. No further action. The language is mechanical, but the effect is absolute. The scan is attached, annotated with arrows and a timestamp. For the owner, it is a death sentence wrapped in a PDF. This is not theory or speculation. Since the surge in lithium upgrades after 2018, underwriters have quietly mandated thermal scans as part of any electrical audit. Surveyors are trained to pause on every fuse and terminal, aiming the infrared lens at each connection. The moment a non-standard system lights up above the baseline, usually 105 to 115 degrees in normal operation, the surveyor's checklist moves to the automatic rejection column. There are no appeals. The risk is documented, visible, and now permanent. Even the most expensive marine-grade battery management system cannot erase a hotspot if the charge map is missing or the alternator is not isolated. The insurance company does not care if the system works on paper, they only care if it is standard, with factory wiring, a certified install, and no unexplained heat. For owners, the golden handcuffs tighten another notch. The best gear, the latest tech, and a thermal scan that guarantees the boat will never leave the dock. Brokers now warn clients in plain language, if your fuse is hot, your coverage is not. The only fix is documentation, a signed-off charge profile, a thermal scan at idle and at load, and a surveyor's note that every connection runs cool. Without it, the file closes, the policy is denied, and the resale value drops to zero. The numbers do not lie, neither do the scans. Synthetic rigging, once the darling of the performance crowd, now sits in the crosshairs of the actuarial model. Insurers look at Dyneema, especially the SK78 variant, and see a material that resists ultraviolet, shrugs off chafe, and boasts a braking strength that dwarfs wire. But their eyes linger on one word: creep. SK78 is engineered to minimize permanent elongation under load, a technical leap over its predecessor SK75. DSM's datasheets show SK78's creep at a fraction of SK75's, with test figures often cited as greatly reduced creep, but the number never drops to zero. For an underwriter, that is a problem that cannot be explained away by marketing. There is no archive of catastrophic rigging failures tied to SK78. No actuarial table that says, here is the year the Dyneema snapped. Yet the absence of long-term yacht-specific failure data is exactly what triggers the red pen. Stainless wire has a century of claims history and a predictable failure curve. Synthetic lines, even with DNV-type approval for offshore use, lack the decades of field reports that insurers demand. The result is a kind of institutional doubt, a refusal to price risk that cannot be quantified. Surveyors, following their checklist, flag any standing rigging that deviates from factory wire. SK78 might be low creep, but the question is always the same. How do you prove, on paper, that 20 years from now, the chain plate will not punch through the deck? Without a stack of tension tests, engineering sign-offs, and original material certificates, a synthetic rigging upgrade lands in the experimental column. The policy is flagged, the file closes, and the golden handcuffs tighten. The best rope in the world, and nowhere to sail. A chainplate retrofit begins with optimism, a gleaming slab of stainless, custom welded to outlast the original. But in the eyes of an insurance surveyor, every bespoke chainplate is a structural wildcard. The moment the checklist reaches standing rigging attachments, the surveyor scans for factory documentation. If the chainplate is marked non-factory, the box goes unticked. No matter how thick the steel or how careful the weld, the absence of an OEM stamp or a naval architect's load path analysis triggers a silent alarm. The logic is brutal. Factory chainplates have decades of claims data and a predictable failure curve. A custom install, even if engineered to double the original strength, lacks the actuarial history that underwriters demand. The risk is not just the metal, it is the unknowns in the load path. Did the retrofit account for deck flex, backing plate fatigue, or the micro cracks invisible to the naked eye? Without a finite element analysis or a proof load certificate, the chainplate is treated as experimental. A yard owner recalls a client's call after a failed survey. He spent $8,000 on custom plates, welded by a certified shop. The surveyor just wrote non-factory chainplates, no load test evidence. That was it. Policy voided. The insurance company does not care if the upgrade is better, they care if it is standard. The golden handcuffs click shut. A single unchecked box, and the value of the boat collapses. The only fix is paperwork. A stamped engineering report, a proof load receipt, and a surveyor's note that every bolt and backing plate passed inspection. Without it, the boat is uninsurable, no matter how strong the steel. A solar arch gleams above the cockpit, loaded with 400 watts of panels and a tangle of stainless tubing. The owner sees energy independence, the surveyor sees kilograms aloft, and a center of gravity that has quietly crept upward. For every kilogram added above the deck, the vertical center of gravity shifts, and the righting moment, the boat's ability to resist capsize, shrinks. It is not a theory. The calculation is cold and simple. Total weight times the height above the waterline divided by the boat's displacement. Add 60 kilograms of solar and arch at 2 meters above the deck, and the center of gravity can rise by centimeters that matter. Naval architects run the numbers in diagrams, a thin line for the original CG, a thicker one for the modified boat. The righting arm curve, once comfortably positive to 90 degrees, now dips sooner. The difference is measurable. A stability margin can drop by 5 to 10% with a heavy solar install, enough to move a cruiser from offshore rated to coastal only, or worse, to a flagged risk in the insurer's spreadsheet. The technical term is the GZ curve, but the underwriter's language is blunter: fails inclining test. By 2026, the audit is no longer optional. Surveyors demand a stability certificate for any boat with major solar or arch work. The test is physical: a series of weights shifted across the deck, angles measured, numbers logged. The result is a single sheet: pass or fail. If the writing moment falls below the insurer's threshold, the file is closed. The owner is left with a boat that cannot be covered, no matter how green the energy or how polished the arch. Panic sets in when the surveyor, checklist in hand, asks for the test certificate. No document, no coverage. The golden handcuffs tighten. The only fix is remediation, remove weight, lower the arch, or commission a naval architect to certify the numbers. Some owners scramble for engineering reports, hoping to buy back a few centimeters of stability on paper. Others strip the panels off, watching their investment in solar dissolve with the resale value. The numbers are not negotiable. In the actuarial world, a kilogram aloft is a liability, not an upgrade. The insurance company does not care if the system works. They only care if it is standard, certified, and proven to keep the boat upright. The audit leaves no room for improvisation. One unchecked box and the value of the boat drops to zero. A denial from underwriting is not the end. The difference between a dead file and a reinstated policy comes down to paperwork: cold, forensic, and complete. There is no room for improvisation. The insurance company does not care if the upgrade works. They only care if it is documented, certified, and stamped by the right authority. The remedial packet is 8 items deep. Miss one, and the file stays closed. Start with engineering calculations, load paths for chain plates, writing moment for solar arches, charge compatibility for lithium banks. These are not napkin sketches. Each page must carry the seal of a naval architect or certified marine engineer. Next, the data sheets. Original manufacturer specs for every critical component, from SK78 Dyneema to UL 1973 listed battery modules. Serial numbers must match the installation, and nothing can be redacted. Compatibility reports come third. For lithium, this means a signed-off alternator charge map, RPM versus output, BMS cutout thresholds, and proof of DC to DC isolation. For rigging, it is a tension test with results logged against the minimum braking strength. For solar, a stability certificate from a recent inclining test, angles, weights, and the new center of gravity all accounted for. Compatibility is not negotiable. UL or CE compliance proofs follow. Every battery, BMS, and charger needs a certificate, no gray market gear, no DIY mods. Thermal logs are next, infrared scans at idle and underload, annotated by a surveyor. Hot spots above 115 degrees Fahrenheit mean instant rejection. Non-destructive testing, NDT, is required for custom chain plates and retrofitted backing plates. The report must show no cracks, no hidden fatigue. The final 2 items are an inclining certificate for any boat with major weight aloft and a broker's letter. The broker's endorsement confirms that all documentation is on file and that the risk profile is acceptable, no surprises, no omissions. This 8-piece packet is the only way back from a denial. Anything less, and the golden handcuffs stay locked. In 2027, paperwork is the only currency that buys freedom from the blacklist. Today, the actuarial blacklist grows longer. In this market, a single non-standard upgrade is a digital scarlet letter: your claim denied and your investment stranded. The insurance company does not care if your system is safe, they only care if it is standard. For owners, the golden handcuffs tighten. Innovation locks you in, not out. The real risk is not fire or storm, it is being uninsurable by design. Share your story below.